Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. Today, I'm honored to have with us Sanjay Bhatnagar. Namaste.
Namaste.
Before I begin with my questions to Sanjay, I would like to share something personally with you. As many of you are aware, in 2017, I guess it was, 2018 May, I had open heart surgery and a triple bypass. And I have been diagnosed for a long time with diabetes. I want to tell you that Sanjay has done something so extraordinary in my life. He has taken me off all the harsh allopathic drugs and put me on a regimen of Ayurveda and homeopathic treatments. My blood pressure is better than normal, I think, for my age. And my blood sugar is normal. He has done so much for many people that I asked him to come and speak with us today. So Sanjay, my first question is, how did you hear of Sri Aurobindo and Mother?
First of all, let me say, Naraji, that it's my honor to be here, being interviewed by a person of your stature, Mother's true servant like you. My association with Mother and Sri Aurobindo started many years back when I was a child. And my father was a devotee of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And Sri M.P. Pandit used to visit us in Delhi very often. And so whenever he was in Delhi, he would call us to his talks and also make it a point to visit our home and meet with all of us, share a meal at our house. And it was so deeply touching. The meditation with him was our first initiation into the spiritual world of the Divine Mother. And it changed our lives so drastically that since then, it has been a continuous journey towards Mother's and Sri Aurobindo's spiritual.
When did you first come to the ashram?
I came with my parents many years back when I was maybe about 12 or 13 years old. And
approximately what year?
Must have been about early 70s or late 60s, early 70s most likely. And so Panditji was here. He used to sit in his office by the side of the Samadhi. And of course, that was the first visit. I was not married then. But later, we made many such trips, both with my parents and then with my wife. In fact, after we got married, the first place we came to after marriage was to take Mother's blessings at the ashram. And then at each stage when our child was born, we were here as well. So it has been a very long journey, and I'm proud to say that I feel Mother's presence very close to me at all times, guiding me and taking me through the ups and downs of life.
Did you ever have her darshan?
Yes, many, many times.
Did you meet her personally?
I did not meet her when she was in the physical body, but I have felt her presence always.
What did your father ever meet Sri Aurobindo?
My father did not meet Sri Aurobindo. We came in contact with Panditji much later. And so Panditji was like our spiritual guide, philosopher and guide. And that's where the journey started.
And that's how you got to meet Shadalu.
Yes. First time I met Shadalu was when he was a small boy. And I still remember Panditji introduced me to Shadalu, and he had some of his computer projects going on. And so I asked Shadalu some stupid questions about computers, which I didn't know much about at that time. But so the memories are very vivid, and I recollect in great detail our meeting with Panditji at his house, at our house in Delhi, and of course our visits to the ashram with Champaklalji, our audience with Champaklalji in Mother's room.
You met with him?
Yes.
Wonderful.
We had the privilege of meeting him as a family.
Your wife and your child met him?
My wife was not there at that time. I was not married. This was before marriage.
Yes. Now, I'd be very interested if you could speak at great length of your life and work, how you got into the healing of people through Ayurveda and homeopathy.
Actually, I didn't start my career in this field. I joined the Merchant Marine. And how I joined the Merchant Marine was also very interesting. I was reading the Savitri once, where Sri Aurobindo has written about a spiritual journey, and he has correlated that to a ship leaving.
This is the sailor on the sea of time.
Right.
The discoverer.
Yes. And the ship leaves the port into uncharted, unknown oceans and comes across various distant lands, and as a pleasant surprise, very new cultures and new lands. So I was absolutely fascinated with that idea, and so I said I should do that, and maybe that is Sri Aurobindo's Adesh for me, and I should do that.
Interesting, so interesting.
Maybe it'll be a good training for a starting point for my life, and I did that, and so it really turned out to be very interesting. Though Panditji once later told me that that was not my real career. It was something which I had taken up, but he always told me that your true work will start later. And it has, in a way.
Well, how long were you in the Merchant Marine?
I was for 45 years. I was sailing the vast oceans for 45 years, and it was an absolutely fascinating experience to experience, the the world from the other side. When you look at land from the oceans, and you're traveling all by yourself in a small ship in wide oceans through all kinds of weather and through storms and through tornadoes and through what they call as those super cyclones. And it was absolutely fascinating how Mother helped me along every day of my life.
And
facing.
you had no trouble on the sea?
Oh, we had a lot of trouble. We
I
had
mean personally, your stomach and...
not really personal troubles, but yes, I was a chief engineer, so there was troubles galore with my engines and
Yes,
all
yes.
those things. But mother always protected us and kept us safe. And uh, whenever things went beyond my control, I asked for her help, and the guidance was always there. And things happened, and everything worked out. But
how many people were on your ship?
Olden days, it used to be quite a few, sometimes 30, 25, 30, but now it's down to about 15 to 16 people. Ships are more automated and there's less staff, a lot of computers. And so things have changed a lot.
And what was your experience in different countries?
It was fascinating to meet different people, different cultures, to experience life, to appreciate how other people think. Because in our country, life is very, very different to some of the other cultures in the world. And to be able to experience that and appreciate that was truly a remarkable education. And to experience nature in its different forms, nature can be so different in, let's say, the United States, right? South America and North America is so totally different. The East Coast and the West Coast is so totally different. And the Great Lakes is another world by itself.
So you've been quite often in America?
Yes, very often. So we used to make a round the world trip almost every 3 months. So you would probably visit about 20 to 25 countries in each trip. So every year it was like 3 or 4 times around the world. But that said and done, I was like willing to take a break from that hectic and stressful routine and settle down into something which I thought would be less stressful, but turns out to be more stressful.
And what is that?
That is the work that I'm doing now with Ayurveda and Homeopathy.
And when did you begin this?
I was very interested in medical sciences right from the beginning, right from a young age, although I did take up sailing, as I said, on what I felt was an adesh from the Savitri. But my first love had always been medicine and philosophy and life and spiritualism and a deeper understanding of people and things. And so I used to read up on a lot of these things during the time that I had at sea.
And you must have had a lot of time with it.
I did have a lot of time, and as I got senior, I had more time than I could handle properly. So I used to take a lot of books with me. And so the first thing I did was that I said that I must read the Bhagavad Gita. I have not read it. So I started off reading the Bhagavad Gita, and then I wanted to read the Bible, and then the Old Testament, and then the Holy Quran, and Buddhism and Jainism, and I read all I could lay my hands on different philosophies and different regions. And the mother would actually take me to those countries, and I would get a chance to see the people in their own habitat, in their own environment, in their own culture. So, for instance, I was reading about the Old Testament. I was reading the Old Testament, and it so happened that my ship went to Israel, and I had a chance to stay there for 20 days and experience and see for myself exactly what was written in the Old Testament and about the culture, the Hebrew culture, things like that. So it was as if Mother was showing me everything. And I was so absolutely fascinated by that. And then, of course, I continued my work studying different different forms of
Did you read
treatment.
any of Sri Aurobindo and Mother during that time?
Yes, I used to carry those books with me, and I used to read them at home as well. We have a whole big library. Panditji used to give us a lot of books when he came to Delhi, and so we had access to a lot. But more than the written word, I found that meditation was giving me a lot of joy and a lot of knowledge at first hand. So I relied on that more and more. And so taking up the thread of trying to heal people, it started off um, like that on board, studying.
What year did you begin that work?
I started reading about medicine quite young when I was still in school.
Ah,
And
you continued that while you were at sea
yes,
also?
Yes. So I wanted to do something which was different, which was um, not just the way medicine and treating and curing was handled in the world. And I wanted to actually cure and not just um, treat symptoms. And I knew that Ayurveda could do it. And I knew that homeopathy could do it. But somehow it was not being practiced that way. And
you mean the two sciences were not being practiced that way, or
what I mean
allopathic
is,
medicine?
Yeah, what I mean is that the way commercial medicine is practiced today, um, whether it is any form of medicine, people are not so keen to cure you. They want you as a patient. And so they want to keep you as a patient, the longer the better for them. But ultimately, it was Ayurveda which was getting a bad rap due to that. And so people started commercializing it, and it wasn't having the intended effect on people. And so I wanted to change all that.
And how did this happen with Ayurveda? Was it commercialized?
The same reason, because people want to make a living, and people, if they start curing you, then you are no more a patient. And so it was something which was purely commercial in people's hearts today. And also people, study a subject not because of their passion and interest, but because what kind of monetary benefits it would give them. So they really were not so passionate about treating and curing people as the profession needed people to be. And so when I started reading up on these subjects of Ayurveda and homeopathy, I found that it was possible to cure almost every condition. And so I started applying things on myself and on my family. And then I found that the herbs available today in the market were also not pure. And they were not sourced from places where the herb grows in its most potent form. They were sourced from maybe a wholesale supplier whose intention was not to really give you the best, but to give you the cheapest and to sell it at the maximum profit. So that was not what I wanted, because herbs, if they're going to have a curative effect, they need to have grown in that environment which is conducive to cure. To give you an example, red wine, let's say, if you have good quality red wine from France, from a certain region in France, it's actually medicine for your heart. You can feel it having an effect on your heart. But if you have it from anywhere else, it probably give you diabetes. So
It probably what?
probably give you diabetes if you have
Really?
too much. If you have too much, so the composition of sugars is different. So, like a rose, there are so many different varieties of rose. Not all of them smell good, and not all of them have that fragrance. So, you need to source every plant from where it grows in its most potent form. You can't just source it from your nearest wholesaler.
But this must have been a tremendous work for you.
Yes. So, it was sourcing of the herbs became easy for me because I had traveled to different countries and I knew where what grows, and I had friends and I had contacts. I had shipping contacts in most of the countries, so that helped me a lot. If I wanted to see and experience the Amazon rainforest for myself and see the curative value of some of the herbs that grow there, I was put in that circumstance where I was taken right to the center of the Amazon rainforest on my ships, and I could experience that. And absolutely pure, fresh air, fresh water. Anything that grows there is organic in its very nature because there is no use of fertilizer or pesticides in that region of the world. So you hardly see any doctors there, you hardly see any hospitals in that part of the world. So because nobody falls sick. And so that was fascinating. And then I started then putting together a little of my own herbs, buying them, sourcing them, and putting them together to as per the directions of Ayurveda, the ancient knowledge. And I started getting the effect that I needed. And of course, to back it up with modern scientific data and validation, I started studying various studies put out by the National Institutes of Health in Washington, D.C., and what they had to say on the various studies that they had done. And I found a lot
herbs?
On herbs, yes. So I found a lot of data which the NIH had compiled in studies on the treatment of various diseases using ancient Indian and Chinese Ayurvedic herbal plants. And so here was a database which gave me proof of, or a validation, you could say, of the potential curative effect of these herbs as studied by the NIH over a long period of time. And so when they put that information down in steady form, it became a validation of the treatment and using those herbs. So it's something which I try to educate my patients in, that what does the NIH talk about diabetes and let's say, or heart disease, and which herbs does Ayurveda validate for treatment and to reverse the condition. And the NIH actually corroborates on a lot of that information. So those studies, when people saw, it was easy for me to convince them to start taking those herbs side by side of their regular medicine. So I wouldn't ask anybody to stop any medicine that he was taking. But what I would say is that you try these, take them in the way that they are intended to be taken, and keep in consultation with your primary care physician, and the physician himself will tell you to stop the allopathic medicine because you won't be needing them anymore, because your condition would have reversed quite a bit. And that's exactly what started happening. And so then a lot of those doctors started coming to me that, how did you reverse this condition? How did you reverse that condition? I saw the reports, and and he was my patient, and I am absolutely surprised to see this result. So could you treat me as well? So it started off trying to help people. So I still do that. All I try is just to help people. I use my own passion of the subject to teach people what are the benefits. And of course, whatever we prepare is basically just enough for our own home use and some friends and family who, people referred, and their friends. So it's not something that that I'm capable or can do on a commercial scale. But who knows? As things grow, if the mother intends that it should expand, then somebody may come forward and try to take this into the wider world.
Let us hope so. I'm interested in how you combined homeopathy with Ayurveda. How did you study that and come to that conclusion?
Actually, homeopathy and Ayurveda are two different sciences, absolutely different. And homeopathy is a fascinating subject by itself, where Dr. Hahnemann, so many centuries ago, he was a qualified MD, allopathic doctor, and he wanted to do something beyond the capabilities of the medicine that he was practicing. And so he, in his meditation, came in contact, as he says, with this knowledge at some level of the world, and he kind of downloaded that, because to logically think up the science of homeopathy the way he did it was just totally, quite impossible, because it works in a very different way. And he started making the medicines. With each medicine, he would try it on himself. So he would induce the disease on himself and then reverse it. And he would note down the symptoms. So the materia medica that he made using different medicines for different conditions and what are the symptoms actually was, originally tried on himself. And so homeopathy works on the system of the body curing itself. So the body makes its own medicine to cure itself. The homeopathic medicine only acts as a trigger for the body to make its own medicine. So, being fascinated by this, I found that in my own work, there was a lot of difference between what each science could accomplish. For instance, the results that I got with Ayurveda in some chronic diseases, I would not get with homeopathy. But what homeopathy could treat, Ayurveda could not.
I see.
So, especially, diseases of the mind, autoimmune diseases, some of the autoimmune diseases were very, very well treated by homeopathy. And so I found the need to study both, so that I could help somebody for his various conditions using both. Whatever was best suited for his condition. If it was Ayurveda for his diabetes and heart and kidneys and liver, I could use that. And if it was homeopathy for something else, then I could use that. So I would give a combination of treatment. And so I was getting the results. And so that's how it started. And that's maybe, yeah.